2 wives. 2 births. 2 moments that would have been supposed to be filled with untainted joy, but were instead marred by cracks so deep that they could never be healed. Sister Wives viewers continue to wonder, what actually transpired inside of that birthing room? And why did Kody behave the way he did when Christine gave life birth compared to when Robyn did? Christine's birthing experience was one of bare pain, grit, and need for emotional support. She opted for a home birth more in keeping with tradition, with women and a much-loved midwife. Quiet, spiritual, each contraction drawing her closer to the breaking point. But as Christine gave birth, cameras caught Kody's agitated energy. Rather than focusing on his wife, his attention strayed. His words clipped. His presence, distant. Fans observed how he stood over her, arms crossed, nearly critiquing instead of soothing. This is Christine's moment, many people afterward stated. But Kody wasn't quite present, his thoughts elsewhere, maybe already with Robyn. The gentle voice of the handler walked Christine through the pain, but the husband, the man who vowed to bear her burdens, was emotionally absent. The pain in Christine's eyes wasn't pain alone. It was the burden of realizing she was alone, even as she provided Kody with yet another child. When Robyn went into labor, the mood was decidedly different. The delivery occurred in a hospital, clean, clinical, modern, but replete with Kody's hovering energy. His body hovered near, his hands always reaching out, his voice low and soothing. He wasn't a spectator here. He was a participant, nearly overwhelming in his engagement. Cameras captured him smoothing Robyn's hair, offering words of encouragement. Attached to her side. Fans couldn't help but see, where Christine had a handler's familiarity, Robyn had Kody's. Where Christine struggled for attention, Robyn was given it automatically. And in that moment, between the agony of contractions and the euphoria of new life, fans argue the favoritism became inexorable. The dichotomy struck fans like a lightning bolt. Why was Christine left with a midwife's gentle touch while Robyn was handed every bit of Kody's love? Why was the agony of one wife tolerated alone in near seclusion, but the pain of another endured by the husband himself? To this day, Sister Wives viewers analyze each shot from those episodes and ask, was that love, was it favoritism, or was it manipulation? Christine Brown's delivery wasn't merely a laboring moment, it was a history-defining chapter in Sister Wives. Viewers watched it happen on TV, but what the cameras picked up, and what they didn't, still generates suspicion to this day. Christine wanted something different. Away from the coldness of hospital walls, she believed in the intimacy of home birth. She wanted her children born surrounded by women's strength, midwives, and the spiritual calm of her own space. The room was dim, warm, filled with soft encouragement. A handler and a midwife whispered instructions, timing contractions, guiding Christine through each agonizing wave of pain. The atmosphere was sacred. But then, Kody entered. His energy was restless. His presence wasn't calming, it was disruptive. Fans noticed how he hovered near the wall, not by Christine's side. His arms crossed, his eyes darting, as if this was not his moment to share, but simply something to endure. Every contraction ripped through Christine's body. She clenched. Her jaw moaned through the intensity, and begged for relief. Sweat poured down her face, her body trembling. The handler leaned close, gripping Christine's hand, whispering, "You're strong, you've got this," almost there, but the words Christine needed, were not from the handler. They were from her husband. Instead, Kody stayed back. He asked questions about logistics. He glanced at the midwife. He looked detached. The cameras caught it all, Christine screaming, gasping, pushing through the unbearable pain. And Kody, standing just far enough away that the distance felt symbolic. Finally, after hours of struggle, Christine delivered her child. The room erupted in relief, the midwife smiling, the handler praising her strength. Christine looked up, exhausted, searching for Kody's face. This was the moment for him to kneel, to embrace her, to cry with her. But instead, he hesitated. He smiled, yes. But it was the smile of a man who had just checked off a responsibility, not the raw emotion of a father overwhelmed by love. The child was placed in Christine's arms, her tears flowing freely. Kody leaned closer, but it was cautious, almost clinical. Viewers watching later could not ignore the signs. Why did Kody act like a spectator instead of a partner? Why did Christine rely more on the handler's touch than her husband's? In fan forums, theories spread, Kody's heart wasn't in it. His emotional distance was a sign of favoritism already brewing. Christine's pain was real, but to him, it was just another duty. Christine herself later hinted at these feelings that she often felt invisible, overlooked, dismissed. And for many fans, it all began in that birthing room. When Christine cried after labor, begging for reassurance, the cameras didn't capture a flood of affection from Kody. They caught his silence. And silence, fans argue, speaks louder than words. If Christine's birth was marked by silence and distance, Robyn's was marked by presence. Every second, every breath, every moment, Kody was present. Far too present, in the opinion of some fans. The bias was no longer veiled. It was out in the open. Unlike Christine, Robyn chose the bright lights and medical safety of a hospital. The sterile environment buzzed with machines, nurses, and doctors. It was modern, secure, structured, everything Christine's dimly lit home birth was not. But there was one constant: Kody. From the moment Robyn was admitted, Kody was glued to her side. He hovered by her bed, adjusting pillows, brushing her hair from her face, whispering encouragement into her ear. The cameras rolled as Robyn clutched his hand, her contractions growing stronger. Every moan, every wince, every tear, Kody matched it with a pained expression of his own, as if he was laboring with her. When Robyn cried out, Kody leaned close, his forehead nearly touching hers. His voice lowered to a soft whisper, "You've got this, Robyn. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Fans froze at those words. "I'm not going anywhere." It was the very thing Christine had begged for and never received. The contrast was brutal. Robyn's pain was met with comfort. Christine's pain was met with distance. Hours later, the hospital room filled with urgency as Robyn entered her final pushes. Nurses rushed around, Kody gripped her hand tighter, his face twisted with emotion. Then, in an explosion of relief, Robyn's baby was born. Tears streamed down her face as the newborn was placed in her arms. Kody's reaction was instant, he cried too, wrapping his arm around Robyn, kissing her forehead, whispering, "You did it, you're amazing." The moment was intimate, tender, broadcast to millions. For fans who had watched Christine's lonely struggle, the difference was staggering. Online forums lit up with outrage. Why didn't he treat Christine this way? He looked like a different man with Robyn. It was favoritism, clear as day. Even in casual fan discussions, the phrase, "two different husbands," began circulating. Kody with Christine, cold and distant. Kody with Robyn, loving and devoted. Another striking difference, the handler's role. With Christine, the midwife and handler carried the emotional weight. With Robyn, they faded into the background because Kody had taken over. The family's reactions also told a story. Christine's birth brought polite smiles from the family, but Robyn's birth was treated like a centerpiece moment. Janelle, Mary, even Christine herself, all offered congratulations. But viewers could see it, Robyn was elevated, Christine diminished. Kody's affection didn't stop when the cameras cut. He lingered at Robyn's side for days, fussing, protecting, nurturing. For Christine, her postpartum phase felt lonely, unsupported. For Robyn, it was filled with attention, care, and validation. And fans noticed. 2 births. 2 wives. 2 worlds. Christine departed with hurt and doubts. Robyn bejeweled with love and assurance. And Kody? His actions, his favoritism, his decisions, they sowed the seeds of a family break that would later burst. The truth is not only in what did occur. It's in what didn't. If we lay the births of Christine and Robyn side by side, the contrast is so clear, so acute, that viewers declare it's impossible to miss. Same guy, same husband, same father, but 2 very different Kody Browns. Christine gave birth in pain. Her labor contorted her body, her screams filled the air. A midwife and handler leaned in, walking her through every second. And Kody? He stood back. Arms folded. Eyebrows pinched. His voice scarce, distant, as if he was observing the experience rather than experiencing it. When Christine pushed, when she screamed, when she prayed for the strength, his voice was limited. His hands never stayed in hers. His presence was there. Fans later described it as though Kody was seeing some other man's wife, but not his. Robyn's labor, on the other hand, was an act of adoration. Each contraction drew Kody in closer. His hand was wedded to hers, his voice steady in her ear. "You're amazing. You're incredible. You can do this." He wiped away her tears, smoothed her hair, nudged his forehead against hers. His whole body language shouted, "This is my person, this is my partner, this is where my heart is." As Robyn delivered, Kody wept with her. His face contorted in raw emotion. He kissed her forehead, murmured love, held her close. 2 sets of husbands. One for Robyn. One for Christine. Producers didn't have to tell fans anything. They witnessed it for themselves. With Christine, silence. Distance. Absence. With Robyn, comfort. Affection. Presence. This wasn't a hospital versus home birth thing. This wasn't a circumstance thing. It was all about choices, Kody's choices. Christine's supporters rallied online, angry with the chill she had to put up with. They highlighted her isolation, her dependence upon a handler, her husband's inability to behave like a husband. Robyn's supporters admired the closeness and softness of her presentation, but those were swamped by detractors who labeled it evidence of naked partiality. He never gazed at Christine that way. He never embraced Christine that way. He never loved Christine that way. The comparisons snowballed into memes, arguments, innumerable discussions in sister-wives fan communities. Christine herself, years later, confessed to having felt invisible, not loved, not supported. Rewatching footage of her own birth contrasted with Robyn's must have been devastating. Fans believe these moments were not just television, they were the beginning of the end. The roots of Christine's decision to walk away were planted right there, in the birthing rooms. And that contrast wasn't an accident. It wasn't a difference in location. It was a difference in heart. Kody demonstrated to the world where his allegiance resided, where his devotion coursed, and with whom he regarded as his true partner. Christine endured in silence. Robyn flourished in ease. And the family? They would never be the same. In each birth, there are individuals who jump into action when a mother requires support. But on Sister Wives, the distinction between Christine's handlers and Robyn's medical team said more than two birth plans. It said who Kody relied upon, and whom he left behind. During Christine's labor, the handler and midwife were her lifelines. They wiped her forehead, whispered encouragement, held her hands during contractions. They became the voices of reassurance Christine should have heard from her husband. Breathe, Christine, breathe. You're strong. You've got this. These women were not just medical helpers. They became emotional surrogates. They carried Christine's pain when Kody would not. Viewers noticed it instantly. Every moment Christine reached out, it was to her handler, not to Kody. Whereas Christine was encircled by love, Kody seemed a figure in the background. He inquired about the nitty-gritty. He kept an eye on the proceedings. He hardly touched Christine. The handlers did what Kody would not do, remain firm, remain present, remain attached. And fans sensed it. Christine might have given birth to a baby with her husband present, but she struggled emotionally in solitude. Robyn's hospital birth was otherwise. The doctors and nurses came and went, tracking her progress, prepping supplies, taking vitals. But they weren't the emotional center. That was Kody alone. When Robyn wept, she held his hand, not a nurse's. When she needed to be cheered up, he leaned in, not a doctor. When the pain reached its height, she turned her face toward him, not toward another. The medical staff became an ensemble, and Kody took the lead role. For Christine, the handlers bore the emotional load. For Robyn, Kody bore it himself. The message was unmistakable. The suffering of one wife was outsourced. The suffering of the other wife was adopted. Viewers picked apart the footage, noting every distinction. Christine's handler walking next to her, that should have been Kody. Kody whispering to Robyn, he never whispered that to Christine. Midwife coaching Christine's breathing, why didn't Kody even try? Fan forums blew up with theories. Some were convinced Kody was already emotionally distant from Christine by then. Others claimed he kept all his intimacy for Robyn alone. Some even said the contrast was proof of production manipulation, created to emphasize his favoritism. But most viewers concurred, the handlers told the truth. In Sister Wives history, the handlers became symbols. For Christine, they symbolized the emotional absence of her husband. For Robyn, the absence of handlers demonstrated Kody's total investment. And that symbolism would reverberate years later, when Christine walked away from the marriage completely, citing lack of support, lack of love, lack of partnership. The evidence was always there, in the birthing rooms. The midwives, the handlers, the medical crew, they weren't merely fixtures of the birth tales. They were witnesses to a more profound reality. Christine leaned on strangers because Kody wasn't present for her. Robyn leaned on Kody because he made himself her anchor. And fans knew, in those moments, who his true priority was. 2 births. 2 wives. 2 stories etched into Sister Wives history. But when the cameras were turned off, the effect didn't diminish. It intensified. It spread. It contaminated the already weak ties. And it shattered a family. For Christine, the day her child was born was supposed to be a memory of victory, love, and togetherness. It became instead a memory of absence. When she looked back, what did she see? A handler's hand in place of her husband's. A midwife's voice where her partner's whispers should have been. Silence where there ought to have been reassurance. Christine has confessed in interviews that she felt often unseen, unloved, unsupported. The birth wasn't a medical procedure, it was a metaphor. An instant where she saw she was giving birth not only to a baby but to evidence of her own isolation. For Robyn, the scenario was different. Her hospital birth was intimate, devoted, protecting. She had the husband she required, the partner who never left her bedside, the father who wept with her. The symbolism was potent. Robyn was welcomed. Robyn was chosen. Robyn was loved. And that distinction, frozen forever on film, was impossible to ignore. Kody tended to defend himself, saying he treated all his wives equally, that circumstances dictated his actions. But fans believe no circumstance can justify coldness in one room and suffocating admiration in another. He drew the line himself. He exposed his favoritism himself. And in doing so, he broke the very essence of plural marriage, the commitment to equality. Years later, when finally Christine declared she was gone, fans gazed upon those birth clips and said, "We knew this was coming." The seeds of devastation were sown long before divorce paperwork. They were sown in the tears Christine cried during labor, in secret from her husband, in intimacy he reserved for another woman. Robyn gained a husband that day. Christine lost 1. Reflecting back, viewers couldn't help but ask, why was Kody so passionate with Robyn but not with Christine? Was it favoritism, manipulation, or something more? Were these births the evidence that polygamy in this family was never equal? The replies, however aching, appear graven into each shot. Christine's birth was a tale of silence. Robyn's birth was a tale of devotion. And Kody's actions, so starkly contrasting, became the tale of a marriage that would not last. The family will never be the same again. The cracks are too extensive, the scars too apparent. And to millions of fans, it has always been there, in the delivery rooms where lives were started, and love had ceased. But what do you believe? Did Kody reveal his favoritism in those moments, or were the differences mere circumstance? Was Christine doomed to walk away from the very start, or was there ever hope for equality? Share with us what you see, because the reality of sister wives exists not only in the show, but in the eyes of the viewers who witnessed it.